Society loves happy endings, but what about the messy middle? The part where your heart feels like a shattered clay jar? We're talking about grief, and the truth is, sometimes we face it alone. But hey, let's break the silence together.
Welcome to Overcoming Grief, a show for women experiencing profound grief and looking for support in healing and transforming their lives. If you are ready to heal after a loss, create a new self-identity, take responsibility to do the hard things, and get massive results in your life, this show is for you. Now, here's your host, Master Grief and Life Coach, Sandy Linda.
Hello, beautiful souls. How are we all doing today? Happy February already. Can you believe January zoomed by like it was on fast forward? Well, as for me, I'm riding the wave of mixed emotion. A bit messy, a bit okay. But you know what? That's the real deal of life. But fear not, lovely listeners, because in this messy journey, we hold the power to acknowledge our human emotions, embrace the chaos, and walk the path of healing together. Today, we're diving into the unspoken reality of grieving alone and why self-care is your ultimate superpower. Now, grieving is an extremely painful and personal process. But what happens when we find ourselves grieving alone? In a society that often shies away from discussing death and loss, many individuals are left to navigate their grief in isolation, feeling unsupported and unheard. I actually did an episode on grieving alone, but I did it in a part where I discuss about self-improvement. But this one is a part 2, but in the self-care aspect of it. So when we grieve alone, it can compound feelings of sadness, anger, and even guilt. The absence of a support system can leave us feeling like our grief is invalid or unimportant. However, it's important to recognize that grieving alone does not diminish the truth of our emotions. In fact, it highlights the significance of self-care as a crucial component of our healing process. Through self-care, we can give ourselves permission to grieve, honor our emotions, and take the necessary steps towards healing. Whether that means seeking professional help, engaging in therapeutic activities, or simply allowing ourselves to feel the pain, self-care can provide the space and support we need to navigate grief on our terms. The importance of acknowledging and understanding grief. We all find ourselves sometimes navigating the deepness of grief, a journey that transcends boundaries and touches every heart. Grief is a natural response to loss, and it's important to recognize and understand the complexities of this emotional journey, whether it's death of a loved one or the end of a relationship. Grief is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to the profoundness of our connections. In those moments when we find ourselves navigating this path alone, it's essential to remember that our grief is valid and necessary. The absence of traditional support system doesn't diminish the intensity of our emotions. If anything, it highlights the importance of self-compassion and self-care in our healing journey. So, as I unravel the layers of grieving alone, let's empower ourselves with the understanding that our emotions are valid and deserving the utmost care and kindness. So, let me give you some of the challenges of grieving alone. Navigating the path of grief solo comes with its own set of hurdles, intensifying the ache of loss and amplifying the feelings of solitude. When we lack a support system, it's like navigating a storm without a compass. No outlet for our emotions, no comforting guidance, and no shared understanding of our grief. The lack of validation and empathy can make it difficult to process our feelings and find solace in our grief. Furthermore, grieving alone may cast a shadow of disconnection, leaving us adrift in a sea of pain, searching for meaning and purpose in the mix of the madness of grief. I'm going to share a piece of my journey with you all. A trip through the heart-wrenching challenge of grieving alone. So I lost both of my parents right smack in the middle of the adulthood. You guys call it the midlife crisis. Now, life altering doesn't even begin to cover the emotional, physical, and mental roller coaster that follow. I did some digging and found out I'm not sailing this ship solo. It turns out that the death of a parent is a common cause of grief for adults. I stumbled upon this study from the 90s that dropped the bomb. 50% of adults lose both parents by the age of 54. Now here's the kicker. More often than not, if it's dad who goes first, probably because men tend to have a shorter life expectancy, throw in the fact that women usually tie the knot with older fellas, and voila, the circle of life takes its toll. Now, I'm not throwing shade at the research, but it got me thinking. Losing a parent during my 40s messes with the whole adult identity. Take my situation. Mom was 3 years older than dad, and she was the first one to go, followed by my father a year later. I just wanted to lay this out for you to show that the ups and downs of grief can hit you hard when social roles and relationships take a major turn. Before my mom got sick, she was my ride or die, my go-to person for anything and everything. We were tight, especially when I was a kid. Total mama's girl. No shame. My family teased me about being spoiled, but hey, that's family love for you. Losing the one who loved and accepted me no matter what was a gut punch. As her health declined, our dynamic flipped, and suddenly I was the parent and she was the child. I couldn't share a thing with her anymore as her thinking took a hit. The weight of unspoken emotions became a tidal wave of sorrow, drowning me in a sea of silence. Struggling with the unspoken hurdle of grief became my daily dance. Now, in these moments, it's crucial to acknowledge the unique challenges of solo grief and recognize that your journey, though it may be isolated like my situation, it's not one you have to navigate alone. Now, I also want to address the impact on our mental and emotional well-being that can be profound. When the support is at such a distance, loneliness, anxiety, and depression can set in, casting a shadow over our emotional landscapes. The absence of guidance and shared understanding leaves us feeling like sailors without a compass in the storm of grief. The isolation amplifies feelings of sadness and hopelessness, highlighting the crucial need for self-care in this stormy time. Yet within this challenging journey lies an opportunity for empowerment. Acknowledging the impact of grieving alone is the first step toward reclaiming control over our mental and emotional well-being. It's an invitation to prioritize self-care, recognize the strength within, and navigate the storm with resilience. In this space of vulnerability, we discover the power to shape our own healing narrative. Now, the role of self-care in the grieving process. Let's talk about the crucial role of self-care in this whole messy process of grief, especially when you're doing it solo. Self-care is like the unsung hero that gives us the green light to feel the pain, honor our emotions, and take those baby steps towards healing. So here are some various self-care practices that can help empower you when you're grieving alone. First, it's important to create a safe and nurturing environment for ourselves. This can include establishing a daily routine, creating a quiet space for reflection, and engaging in activities that bring comfort and relief. Additionally, practicing mindfulness and meditation can help us cultivate a sense of presence and acceptance in the midst of our grief. Connecting with nature, journaling, and engaging in creative outlets such as art or music can also provide a much needed outlet for our emotion. Now, in the solitude of grief, professional resources are a guiding light of support, offering a way to navigate the spiral journey back to action. Beyond the comfort found in online communities, grief counselors and therapists play a pivotal role in guiding us through the intricate layers of loss. These professionals provide safe haven, a space where we can pour out our emotions without judgment. Their expertise extends beyond just listening. They equip us with invaluable tools to cope with the waves of grief and empower us to embrace healthy strategies for self-care. It's a proactive step towards healing and discovering relief during the shadow of loss. Now, I want to also bring to your attention the importance of self-compassion and self-forgiveness. Grieving alone can often be accompanied by feelings of guilt and self-blame. It's important to practice self-compassion and self-forgiveness during this difficult time. Recognize that it is natural to experience a wide range of emotions, that there is no right or wrong way to grieve. But be gentle with yourself and allow yourself to feel what you need to feel. Remember, healing takes time, and it's okay to prioritize your well-being during this process. All right, as I wrap up this heart-to-heart on grieving alone, a reality that hits harder than we often talk about. When our support system is not available, it's like a triple threat of sadness, isolation, and guilt. However, self-care is not a buzzword. It is the key to finding a little peace in the midst of storm. By accepting the unspoken reality of flying solo in grief and consciously putting ourselves first, we start to navigate this roller coaster on our terms. Whether it's seeking professional help, engaging in therapeutic activities, or connecting with online communities, self-care can provide the space and support we need to heal and find comfort in the midst of loss. Remember, you are not alone and your grief matters. Thank you so much for listening and have a beautiful and wonderful day. Bye. If you enjoyed today's show and don't want to worry about missing an episode, you can follow the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you could share the podcast with others who you think would benefit from it and leave a rating and a review to let me know what you think. It doesn't have to be a 5-star rating, although I sure hope you love the show. I want your honest feedback so I can create an awesome podcast that provides tons of value on the show. Visit www.sandylinda.com/podcast launch for step-by-step instructions on how to follow, rate, and review.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Overcoming Grief. If you're ready to move into a new, rewarding life experience and want more information about how to work with Sandy, visit www.sandylinda.com.